Hello, this is Delina with Arizona Desert Gems, and today we're going to make these 4 different types of super easy dangles to go with the easiest hoop earrings ever, and I will leave the link to the hoop earring video below. So today we're using some assorted beads. Some are stones, some are glass, and then the 20 gauge half hard copper wire that I love buying from Rio Grande, and then a bench block, a chasing hammer, and some pliers and flush cutters. So right here is about an 8mm bead and I believe a 4mm bead. They're pretty small. It's a cat eye and a howlite one. So for this very first design, we're going to be doing the paddle style of dangle. So the first thing we're going to do is measure off approximately 2 inches of wire. So just use your ruler and use your flush cutters. And then I just like to hold my piece that I've cut up to my wire and just snip off another piece. So here we have two 2-inch pieces of 20 gauge copper wire. And we're going to flatten it on the steel bench block. This is a chasing hammer with a flat head. So it doesn't take a lot of taps, just kind of gently tap it out. And what you're going to notice is the wire is going to start to flatten out. And it's going to naturally want to make a little kind of teardrop shape at the bottom. You can see it becoming flat already. So I'm going to test it with my bead. So I'm taking my smallest bead that's going to go on the end here, and you're going to see it in a minute. And I'm looking for placement. I want to make sure that my bead doesn't slip off, and I want to be sure that I get the length of paddle that I really want. And I do like that. You can see it's a nice length to visually see that it's a paddle and not maybe just a little ball on the end. So do the other one the same. I think I only tap these maybe a total of 15 times, and I turn the wire on both sides so that you can get a nice even flattening of the wire. Now, when you hammer them like this into little paddles, they can have a little bit of sharp edges on it. So I'm taking actually a nail file with different grits on it, and I'm using one of probably the 3rd coarsest grit first, and then going to the side for a nice smoothing grit on there, and just feeling it because you don't want anybody or yourself to feel like they're being poked by their jewelry. So now we're just going to put the beads right on, and a little design tip that the eye likes to see multiples of 3 or 5. So it really likes, it's funny, it likes a symmetry here. So we have a small bead, a larger bead, and then the small bead, and the eye loves that. Now I'm just measuring because I've done this so many times that I know on my finger, if I hold it in this exact position and I go just a tiny bit up, then it'll make a perfect loop for me. It's probably about 1/4 inch. So just bend it straight over, and I'm bending it forward so that it is perpendicular to the paddle. Now with some chain nose pliers, I'm just going to grab the very tip, make sure it fits all the way in your plier, and then rolling it over to make a very nice loop. Adjust it if you need, and see how the loop is showing so that the paddle can be seen. Now, what if you have a bead where the hole is drilled through the sides, like these triangle glass beads I have here? So I like to work straight off of the spool so I don't waste anything. So I'm going to slide it through, and I'm giving it probably a good inch, maybe 1.5 inches, and I'm forming a triangle. And then taking the working wire right around just a couple times and cutting it as flat as I can so there's nothing poking out again. Now I'm taking the top first part, bending it straight up, and making sure everything is nice and tight in my coil. I think I wrapped that one 2 times around. Now, just like we did before, we're going to measure it like I said, it's approximately 1/4 inch for 20 gauge wire, but where you put it on your pliers might be a little bit different. So play with it and see, you might need a little more or a little extra. Now I'm going to bend this off to the side and wrap my loop again. Now I'm wanting these to be able to be shown on the hoop. So I'm making sure that my loop is to the side so that from the side of the ear, you're going to see the flat part of the bead. If you were going to hang these on regular ear wires, you would want to twist the top of that loop so the loop is facing forward. But because these are going on hoops, we're going to make them sideways. Just take your time, make sure it is nice and straight, and do the other one the same way. For our third type of dangle, we're going to make these wrapped loops. And this one I'm using glass pearls. So I have my little glass pearl and I have a head pin that is a store-bought head pin with a ball on the end. And this is probably the absolute easiest way you can do it. Now I'm measuring a little bit here with my flat nose pliers because I want a little bit of room for the wrap to go. So you can see it's bent at almost a 90-degree angle. And you come back in with your chain nose and we're going to roll the wire, roll the pliers so that we're making a nice, beautiful loop on the top. I like to help it come around without losing that little crook of the initial bend that we made. Now you're going to wrap tightly around. Now it helps to hold, you can also use your nylon pliers here too, but hold your loop so it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't bend, and just systematically wrapping it slowly nice so that the coils are next to each other. You can always do a little bit more adjusting if it needs, and if the coils don't get perfectly right up to each other snug, you can always come back in with your pliers and make it so. When you're clipping with your flush cutters, make sure you put the flat side next to the place that you want on your finished jewelry. Come in and cinch it down so nothing pokes you or your customers. And that is the absolute easiest wrap loop you could ever make. And for our fourth dangle, we're going to be using some head pins that I actually made with the torch by balling up the end of the copper wire. So after they've been cleaned, this is so easy. You're going to take your larger bead, go straight through, and these are glass beads with a finish on them. Now see how that makes the ball at the bottom of it. I'm actually going to put a tiny glass copper seed bead on the top. So to do that 3 pattern thing that I talked about before. So now the eye is going to see the ball on the bottom of the head pin as an element, as a design element. And that's why the seed bead at the top is going to mimic that. So just like I said before, cut off your wire. Maybe you need 3/4 of an inch. It's always fine to start big. So here you can see, oops, too much wire. I look at about how much I have on the bottom that wasn't rolled, and that's how much I snip off the top. And then I go back and roll it and then adjust the loop to be centered. So really, really very easy. These can be on bracelets, they can be on necklaces, on dangles. And like I said, I put them on the easiest hoop earrings ever. And then you get to change them out and have multiple earrings with just one pair of hoops. So let's go ahead and see what we made. Our first pair of dangles was stones on the hammered paddles. And then the sideways drilled beads, the wrapped loops, and then the simple loop on a head pin with a ball. And here I made 2 pairs of hoop earrings, and each one has 2 interchangeable dangles. So drop a comment below and let me know if you'd like to see how I ball up the wire with my torch. Help me out with a like and a subscribe, and as always, happy creating!